All rise. You may be seated. This is day 4 of the people of the state of Ohio versus Miss Courtney Golson and Anna I. Reyes. We are in the middle of the defense calling their witnesses, and we have heard from Mr. Sawicki and Dr. Johnson thus far. We will begin today's proceedings with testimony number 19. And at this point, who would you like to call to the stand?
We would like to call Dominic Capilano.
Call Dominic Capilano to the stand.
How did you know Gino?
I was a co-worker.
Co-worker? Did he show any signs of aggression towards you or other members?
He was very aggressive. He would verbally abuse other people and throw things at them. There were complaints filed against him, things like that.
Did the boss do anything about the complaints that were received?
Yeah, I think that he was put off work for a little while, but he got put back on work.
Okay. And with the mug, did he hit anyone with the mug? Or?
No, I saw it happen. It was really close to their face, but it didn't actually hit them.
This shows that Gino has compulsive behavior and makes rash aggressions towards people, such as throwing a mug in intention to hit somebody, which it was near close to.
You may approach the witness.
Mr. Dominic, now have you ever heard any conversations of this young person?
Yeah, I've heard him on the phone before. He's always very aggressive. I've even heard him talk to, I think it was Courtney, and he said not to tell the police about certain things. He would always be very aggressive and mean to her and threatening.
Now, the evidence brought to the table by Mr. Dominic shows that obviously the victim in question is a very, very violent person. Basically, we have seen a history of violent outbursts. We even heard evidence of him threatening Courtney. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Would the prosecution like to cross-examine?
Yes. Mr. How do you pronounce your last name?
Capilano.
Now, can you tell me, in the business, were you simply just a co-worker, or was Gino of higher employment? Was he of higher management?
No, we were about the same. We just worked together. I knew him pretty personally.
And can you tell me what exactly you guys do?
It was an accountant firm.
An accounting firm. Yep. So you guys ever have to compete for clients at all?
No, not really.
Okay. But do you think that Gino could have been considered a threat to you to retrieve the most clients?
No.
No, you don't think so?
He wasn't really a threat to me.
Oh, interesting, considering most accounting firms, most co-workers are.
What does this have to do with the
Well, we'll see what it has to do with it.
So, do you think that your view of Gino could have been in a negative manner simply because he's someone that is trying to make as much money as you, and you're trying to get as many clients as possible, and he's trying to get as many clients as possible?
No, because I knew him personally. I guess we kind of had sort of a friendship outside of him being very abusive, so no, there was really nothing.
Now, can you tell me how many times, do you know the number of times he actually had violent outbursts? So-called violent outbursts.
No, I didn't actually count them.
You did not count them, so when you just say, oh, there were a lot, you don't actually know. You just know of one instance where he threw the coffee
well, I know of many more instances, like he would be very threatening and aggressive to other people.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I mean on the phone when he would talk to Courtney and maybe other conversations, he's always very loud and sort of obnoxious. Everybody can hear him.
Now, I'd just like to point out this fact: being loud and obnoxious doesn't necessarily mean violent. I'm sure lots of us here are loud and obnoxious, but that doesn't mean we want to go and hit our spouses or girlfriends or whatnot. Now, interesting that you say that there were multiple occurrences of violence, because when I talked to Gino's boss, Mr. Bush there, he said there was only one reported case of any aggressive behavior, which was the coffee mug incident, and it was not thrown at somebody. There just happened to be someone there. It was not meant with malice at that person. It was a one-time thing out of aggression, partly due because he found out about this affair. So, would you say that's necessarily just demonstration of his violent behavior, or a snap of the moment thing where he wasn't intending to hurt someone?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that he's a violent person when he gets put off of work. Obviously, the boss would have to know something about that for him to be put back on work after that. There's definitely, like, other people have knowledge of his violence.
The fact that he was put back on work, and according to Mr. Bush, there were no other instances of aggression, wouldn't you say that that's not chronic aggressive behavior?
Well, I would say that it is because Mr. Bush is, like, on the other side, so, like he said, he wouldn't really have any knowledge of what's going on the other side of the building.
Alright, so can you tell me how often, when aggressive behavior occurs, it's actually reported?
Not very often.
Not very often. Now, whose responsibility is it to tell Mr. Bush or the other managers in the firm of violent behavior? And why would you choose not to tell?
It's our responsibility, and obviously we have been filing complaints if he's been put off of work.
No, so you have been filing complaints, but then you just said you don't file them very often.
No, I said that in most cases that we wouldn't, but I mean if it happens pretty much every day where we're seeing him being a violent person, we're not going to sit there and just file
Has
complaints.
this been happening? Was it every day he was being a violent person?
No, we filed complaints when he was.
No, so it wasn't every day. So can you consider this a chronic aggressive behavior if it's not an everyday occurrence?
Yeah, I can.
And do you think that no one else in the firm has ever showed any type of aggressive behavior?
Yes, I don't think that they have.
You don't think ever? I find that a little naive to believe that no one in the entire firm. How large is the firm? Can you tell me? How many people work at your position?
Probably like 20.
20 people. So you're telling me that of the how long have you worked there?
3 years.
3 years. So you're telling me that 3 years you haven't seen anybody else, the 20-some people who work in the firm, show any aggressive behavior whatsoever?
No, I'm not.
No, you
Nothing
have
as
not.
extreme as throwing coffee mugs across the room and screaming at their wife on the phone. No.
Alright, now do you think that there were any mitigating circumstances for him to commit this malfeasance?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you think that the circumstances revolving around him throwing the coffee mug led to him throwing the coffee mug itself?
Well, I wouldn't know because I don't know about what's going on in his personal life.
Exactly. You don't know what's going on in his personal life. I'm sure that if any of you in the jury would find out that your spouse of many years is cheating on you, you would obviously be very upset. It would make you lead to a rash decision at that time. But from all our witness testimonies, we've seen that aside from that incident, especially from Mr. Bush's testimony, he's not displayed any other aggressive behavior aside from that. Except you're the one, and you're someone who's co-worker who's trying to get clients as well. So you obviously are probably looking at him in a negative light in the first place. No further questions, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Would the defense like to call their next witness to the stand?
We would like to call Dominic Capuano.
Allow them to have one back to the stand. This will be testimony number 20. proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Dominic, now you claim that you have seen multiple times when he has come to work fights.
Yes.
Now, you stated that you have not kept personal records of, the amount of times you've done this. That'd be very weird if I counted the amount of times with my coworkers. That would have been strange. That's really considerable stuff. Now, how many times did he come to work intoxicated?
I haven't really noticed him being intoxicated or anything like that, but he's definitely out of control.
Now, we have seen, Mr. Dominic has reported that he has had many violent outbursts. And now,
Has Gino ever come to work drunk before?
I wouldn't really know because I'm not like checking him out constantly, but he's definitely out of control, so he could have been drunk.
That's the question.
Cross-examine.
What are we trying to get across here? Are you trying to imply that Gino is drunk when obviously the one person you know who works in the firm has no clue about what he's talking about in terms of Gino's behavior? You say that you're not constantly checking him out. How do you know of so much instances of aggression if you wouldn't even know that if he's ever coming to work drunk?
Because like I said, he's loud, he's very aggressive and
Can
violent.
you define to me what aggressive means? Can you give me a specific example?
Well,
Aside from the coffee mug, because we've
Alright,
had
well,
that already.
I'll go back to the phone call, or maybe when he's talking to someone else that works there. He uses vulgar language. He's, like I said, very loud and it's intimidating and threatening toward them.
Can you tell me though how he was intimidating or threatening? Because I don't understand what you mean by that.
Well, I'm not gonna repeat it. I mean, I've heard on the phone call he threatens Courtney's life. He says not to go to the cops. It all sounds to me very suspicious.
Alright, so and how many times? You can't even tell me on the scale of between 5 and 10 times, 1 and 5 times, how many times? You can't even give me that?
As many times as I hear him on the phone, probably 15 times I've actually noted it, maybe less, I'm not really sure.
Okay, so obviously people get mad at their spouses, especially when they're cheating on them. That's generally something that makes you mad. So now can you tell me how long, has this occurred throughout his whole entire time, or was this concentrated during the later parts of his life?
I mean, he's always been sort of out of control.
Sort of out of control. Can you please define that? 'Cause
He's always been very aggressive towards other people working there. But yeah.
Okay, so he's just been aggressive. Does that mean that he's going to go home and hit his wife because of his aggression?
I don't know.
You
That would
don't
be my
know.
guess. That
You
would be my
don't
guess.
know. So you have no clue about his personal life. You heard a few instances where he's gotten mad at the phone, and you're trying to jump to the conclusion that he's gone to go abuse his wife.
No, I've heard him make specific threats on warning the police and warning her of potential danger. Obviously, if he's going to be abusive, that's a good indication.
Warning of potential danger? Can you elaborate?
Well, I mean, he's warning her that he might be abusive or something like that. It's just...
No, but you don't know if he actually went through. Do you think that people
Well, I
can
wouldn't-
say? Do you think that people can say things on impulse and if they're mad?
Yeah, but it seems to me like he's being very abusive.
And
if
if
he's
this is something that's not happening every day, wouldn't you say that's not really a chronic thing and happens because of certain situations?
No, I wouldn't say that. Things can happen. It doesn't have to happen every day and every second. I mean, people can get out of
How
control.
often though does this happen? You said how long have you known Gino? Can you tell me that?
Since I've worked with him for 3 years.
3 years. So in 3 years, you've only heard 15 times that he's showed aggressive behavior. Let's think about this. 365 days in a year. Multiply that by 3. Only 15 out of those days that he's working. Well, it's okay, fine. Subtract a little bit from vacation days. That's not part of my point. But 15 days out of that long time span that he was working, you don't think that in those 15 days that something could have happened that could have made him mad or upset?
Well, you asked me how many times that I've noted specific phone calls to Courtney that he was being loud and aggressive towards her, and I said I've noted 15 times, maybe less. That was a my exact
Maybe
words.
less. Okay.
Well, I didn't
So-
note it, so I wouldn't.
So yeah, so basically, the rough estimate is 15, and you said maybe less. So even less. That's helping me actually. Thank you for that. So even less. In 3 years, you think that there couldn't have been 15 instances where he was going on an impulse and yelling things that he didn't actually mean? Have you yourself ever yelled anything that you didn't actually mean?
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have. So everybody has, exactly. So Gino, 15 times in his 3 years and working there couldn't have yelled something that he didn't mean.
But it all adds up that he was being very abusive to her by looking at what he's been yelling. He's threatening her life. He's telling her not to get the cops. That's not something that someone yells out of impulse, especially if it happens on more than one occasion.
Have you ever said to someone, "Oh, you're making me so mad. I just want to hit you"? Never said that in your
Yeah,
life?
but I haven't specifically said to someone, don't go tell the cops about what I'm going to do. And I've never made that a big deal and repeated that.
Okay, and you know, you have some merit in that some of this behavior seems kind of shady, but you have no clue what happened, and you haven't been there monitoring them the whole time. So I say we can't just jump to conclusions because of what one employee is saying. No further questions.
Would the defense like to call their next witness to the stand?
We like to call someone.
Call Sean Cordy to the stand. This will be testimony number 21.
Have you seen any, or what is your relationship with the defendant?
Me and her went to college together.
How long have you known him?
I've known her since freshman year of college.
Have you had any altercations with Gina, the victim?
I have, we went to a bar together, and I was with Miss Goldstein, and one night, under the influence of alcohol, Gino had punched me in the face
Punched you in the
and
face.
broke my nose.
Do you have any idea why he punched you in the face?
Not really, no.
So, under the influence of alcohol, he punched him in the face, inflicting physical harm on one of our witnesses. Under the influence of alcohol, he was also threatening Courtney at the scene of the murder. This also helps us proving his rash decisions and his physical violence.
You may approach.
Have you ever seen any marks or cuts or bruises on Courtney?
Yes, I have.
Now, has she ever complained to you about her relationship?
Many times over the phone.
What type of things would she say?
She would say multiple things about Gino is threatening her. She told me one time that Gino had pushed Courtney down the stairs and hurt her head.
Now, based on the testimonies, we've heard that Gino is violent at work. We've heard from right now that Gino has pushed her downstairs and even reacted violently towards him and does get intoxicated. We've also heard cases from the brilliant and handsome Dr. Vladimir Johnson, the psychologist, about how he has personally seen the effects of Gino's abuse on her. Now, the fact that Gino, or the victim, just randomly punches this man in the face for no good reason under the influence of alcohol is a clear sign that this man is not only an alcoholic, but a very violent person. Now, I think it's clear that if someone just randomly walks up and punches someone in the face, that is not necessarily someone that's calm. Now, we have multiple reports from multiple people, especially the brilliant and handsome Vladimir Johnson, brilliant psychologist from Soviet Russia, on the physical effect on Courtney. So we have multiple cases showing violence from Gina. No further question.
For cross-examination. Before you continue, let me redirect the attention of this, and I understand what both sides are trying to do. This woman here is on trial for murder. Okay? I realize the connection between between the victim's mental state, his aggression, his lack of aggression, his habits, and whatsoever. Okay? I understand why proving his aggression to a certain level, what the relevance that has to the case. But the case at hand is between these two. Should she be tried for first-degree murder? Or was this justifiable homicide? We need to make sure we keep our focus strictly on that, trying to reach that verdict as well. We're not just trying to reach the verdict of whether or not Gina was a violent person, although that may have something to do with it. The verdict, we have to keep in mind the verdict we're ultimately trying to arrive at. Now, please proceed with your cross-examination.
Now, you maintain contact with Mrs. Golston after your college years with her.
Yes.
Now, were you aware of her depression?
I was not.
Were you aware of her diagnosed bipolar disorder?
I was not.
So, did you just blindly believe everything that she was saying on the phone?
Most of the time, yes.
Yes. Okay. And based on what she told you, you would think that there'd be bruises and cuts on her body, correct?
Yes, here and there we would go out. I would meet up with her occasionally, once every month, and I would see randomly bruises on her arms, cuts.
Okay. I'd just like to point out two things here. One, we've already found out that Mrs. Golson self-inflicts wounds on her arms during cuts. We found that out from
Objection.
Dr. Hippler.
Objection. We never found out that she self-inflicted. That was just a wound on her body.
I do not recall.
In Dr. Hippler's testimony, he specifically asked her what those cuts on her arm were, and actually, according to Dr. Hippler, she responded by saying, "I cut myself because I was depressed." That's what Dr. Hippler said.
We'll get Dr. Hippler back on the stand later.
Okay. So she was depressed, and also from Dr. Hippler's testimony, we found out that 3 weeks before the crime, he did a physical, so a thorough body examination, and he did not see any bruises or cuts on her body. So, how are we? You said you blindly believed what she said. Okay, but the evidence suggests that she really wasn't being abused. That's what the evidence suggests. Even all the holes in the wall and all, those were possibly caused by the kids he was babysitting, and Gino punched the wall once, but did not punch her at that very instant. So, and another thing I'd like to point out, you said that he was intoxicated when.
I didn't say that he was intoxicated. I said he had one drink of alcohol, and then decided to come up to me and physically assault me.
Okay, but drink of alcohol still classifies as intoxication. Now,
But not as drunk though.
no, I 100% agree there. He's not drunk. But if I heard correctly, the defense is trying to say that during the crime that Gino had consumed alcohol and then started abusing, and she started drinking the alcohol, because from what that's what the defense said.
Objection.
That's what
We
I
never
heard
said
from
the
the
drink
defense.
it was an alcohol.
It's been confirmed the drink with the drink
It's in
was not alcohol that was ingested at the time of his
Okay.
death.
So it was water.
That yes, the record shows that it was water.
All right. So it was in the water. So this whole connection to alcohol here is a little bit irrelevant, and even the use of alcohol can still alter the mind even through one drink. So. The consumption of alcohol can still alter the mind. Now, you said you didn't know of her bipolar disorder and her depressive behavior.
Was not.
You were not aware of that. So, and we found out also from Dr. Hippler that bipolar disorder can cause rash decisions. So, did Courtney ever tell you that she instigated any violence?
Never.
No. Okay. And we have her quoted saying that at the time of the crime she was not thinking straight. So, how are we supposed to believe that she was actually being abused at that time? That what she classifies as abuse is actually abuse? Now, did she mention this specific incident to you? Did she talk about actually poisoning her husband?
Never about poisoning. She would here and there say something about like her and Gino would have rough times, and every marriage has rough times. Every relationship has that. But it was to me, I suspected something was going on, but I didn't know if it was my say or not to say something.
Now, have you talked to Miss Golston since the crime? Has she told you her side of the story? No, she has not.
This is my first time hearing about it.
That only the dryers.
Okay.
The traffic cycle.
Alright. So you did not hear the story from her before this trial started?
I mean, I heard it when the trial started, but I did not hear about it once, like when the plan was inactive.
Okay. And you know what I think is very interesting? We found out that this potassium cyanide was through some chemical used to help your plants. Is that correct?
She acquired it for gardening purposes.
Acquired it for gardening purposes. And the poison was in like the gardening shed. I think it's quite interesting that at the scene of the crime, Mrs. Golston just happened to have some in her pocket.
Objection.
We've already confirmed that she didn't have the cyanide on the person, but she had gotten cyanide from the ship and proceeded to commit the alleged crime.
As he was saying, the cyanide was on her person when she received it from the shed.
He said it was in her pocket.
He said it was in her pocket.
That's what I've heard.
Still on her person. It was. She
Okay,
ran
fine.
out to the
It's on
shed.
her pocket.
So
It's with her on her.
she retrieved the cyanide from the shed. She had the cyanide on her. She had the cyanide with her. Okay. Whether or not she was carrying it around in her pocket, that's not what he's trying to. He's not trying to say that she'd been carrying it around in her pocket for days. She retrieved it from the shed and she had it with her. Now continue.
So, and how far back was this instance where punched you in the face?
Senior year of college.
Senior year of college. Now, can you tell me how long ago did you graduate?
I graduated probably about 3 years prior.
3 years prior. Now, do you think that someone can change their behavior in 3 years?
Obviously, no.
You don't think?
They still probably act immature.
Okay, so
Just because that they're 21 and older does not mean that they can do whatever they please.
no, I understand. I agree with you. But do you think that people can't change their behavior? They can't go from immature to mature?
No, I don't.
You don't think so? Well, that's a matter of opinion, but I'll tell you what I believe and what I think is true is that people can go from immature to mature. We see it with so many people. And he's not an alcoholic. You have no evidence that he was an alcoholic. He had one drink and punched him in the face. That's the only alcohol-related incident that we know of so far. So to go to the stretch and call him an alcoholic and tie that to abuse and then thus tie that to justifiable homicide is a non sequitur. You can't use logical fallacies to tie alcohol to murder. No further questions.
You may be seated. Would the defense like to call their next witness? Of course you can. Call Courtney Golston to the stand. This is testimony number 22. Of course you can.
Courtney, how many times have you allegedly been abused?
It's been a lot of times over the years.
Now, what exactly would occur? Can you describe to me some of the events that would happen?
Sometimes he would just hit me. Sometimes he would, push me down the stairs, or he'd lock me in the basement.
Now, was there ever any damage to the house?
Yes, he sometimes hit the walls or push me into them, causing dents in them.
How often would he cause damage to the house?
Not for sure, a few times a week.
Now, we have evidence to confirm the fact that Gino would in fact have violent outbursts, and damage with the house can be confirmed by the testimony of Brennan, who is often a contractor, who often comes to the house to fix the dents in the wall. Now, unless this person is unrealistically clumsy and just happens to break the wall a bunch, I think it's very obvious that he's been having violent outbursts while abusing boarding has caused damage to the house. Now, you have been seeing a psychologist, correct? What's the name of the psychologist? Yes. Now, how handsome? Thank you. Now, Alex Johnson, a very, very well-respected and he has lots of degrees, confirmed that you did not have bipolar disorder. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that it was in fact side effects from the depression medicine, which wasn't properly adjusted to the chemicals in your body. Now, according to the testimony of the brilliant and handsome Vladimir Johnson, Dr. Alex Vladimir Johnson.
He will be referred to as Dr. Johnson from this point forward. He will be referred to as Dr. Johnson. You will be held in contempt of court.
Vladimir Johnson confirmed that she did not have bipolar disorder because of the fact that she had been getting depression medication. And depression medication can sometimes have the side effects of anger, and sometimes actually cause worse than depression, and can sometimes even resemble the symptoms of bipolar disorder. But was confirmed, since bipolar disorder is a mental illness, by the psychologist, a therapist, a mental doctor, that she did not have that. So she obviously does not have bipolar disorder, so saying that she's the one that has an outburst of rash decisions is completely irrelevant. And not only that, we do have evidence that there is violence within the household due to the fact that there is large amounts of holes in the walls, and I don't think she's the one getting hyper angry and busting down doors, throwing herself down the stairs, and punching holes in the walls. Thank you for your questions.
Could you please describe the murder scene?
Well, I left before he actually ended up dying, but when I left, he had passed out before.
Where did you go before the whole murder incident?
I ran out the back because I was going to try to run away, but I stopped because I realized that I could never get away from him. So I grabbed the person I saw in the shed, and I came back in the house.
And you've already had repeated threats about him threatening to bring you back and kill you, correct? Can you please describe any other threats that you were given by him?
He's told me not to call the police, or else he's threatened to come home and beat me, or to lock me away and do everything.
And he came home to you the night of the murder under the influence of alcohol, correct?
Yes.
Now, when he is under the influence of alcohol, he tends to make more threats, more violent threats. And did he ever, show abusive behavior towards you that night?
Yes.
What exactly did he do?
When he came home, he was already angry, and we started arguing, and he got the knife and held it to my throat.
He held a knife to your throat, threatening your life?
Yes.
Now, if you have a knife to your throat, threatening your life, don't you tend to want to protect yourself?
Yeah, I got really scared, and I promised him that I would leave.
So the only way to save your life is by trying to make a quick decision, trying to find something else to prevent this. Correct? Now, the night of the murder, he came home, Gino came home drunk. When he came home drunk, he proceeded to make threats to Courtney, holding a knife to her throat, endangering her own life. And after that, she was so scared and shaken up, and he's already made threats that if she runs away, if she tries to get away, call the police, such as Dominic Capuano said about the police threats, then he would kill her. This is threatening her life here. She didn't have another option. This was her only way to get out and escape the situation.
dominant I am.
He has to be doing punch holes in the balls. Now, if it is true that you are being abused, which some of us do believe so, then if you were acting in self-defense, would there be a way for you to overpower him and defend yourself in a life-threatening situation?
No, not physically.
So, if she cannot defend herself using her physical body, and she cannot run away, then how is she going to be able to defend herself and protect her life unless with some sort of help from something like poison? That's the only option for her because she has no way to physically overpower an abusive male that's been punching holes in the walls. That's simply not a logical option. Now, it's been brought up that you've been having an affair, correct? Can you please state the person you've been having an affair with?
Riley.
Now, why have you been seeing this man?
Well, we were friends at first for a long time, and then we started to get closer, and then we started to get worse and worse.
So, would you say that you've been needing more emotional support?
Yes.
Now, if I were this person being abused and I could not leave, I would definitely need emotional support from someone. And if I can't get it from my family, I'm going to try and find a close friend. So if I was in that much need of emotional support, then I think that I would try and find someone. Obviously, Riley, a great person who's been there for her, has formed an actual relationship because she needs someone that's not going to beat her. She's clearly not wanting to give it to Gino just to be with him, but he's giving her support. It has nothing to do with wanting to give it to Gino, and I think that that's why the affair is irrelevant. No further questions?
May I give a document to my attorney?
Yes, you may get that.
It's not a document, that's a
That document will return to the court as soon as the attorney.
What about the past notes?
That is so not a document.
You can pass documents now, guys.
Alright, that's nice. So let me see it. That looks pretty official. I know. It's a
Notarized.
Yeah, can we have some documents over here?
This is not evidence in support of the trial either way. This note will be dismissed and not discussed further in this testimony. Please proceed.
You know, I feel for you if you were actually abused. I understand that you felt as you had no way out. But let's think about this. Did you have no way out? Now, at the time when you put the poison into his drink, was the knife at your throat? No. So by Ohio statutes and laws, self-defense is categorized as something at a moment of peril, and at that time, someone was trying to inflict violent aggression towards you. At that time. This is Ohio law, it's not something I'm just making up. This is what it's defined as. So, in this case, was it really self-defense? I don't think so. Now, you said you relied on Mr. Smith there for emotional support? Not Smith, I didn't know where I got Smith from. Mr. Riley there? For emotional support. Now, how long was that, how long was this affair going on?
Well, we were friends for years. We started the affair recently, like the last 2 years.
Recently. Okay. And you wanted to leave Gino, I guess.
Yes.
You wanted to leave Gino. So, wouldn't the best way to just be getting rid of him and going off with your lover there? No? You don't think so? What would be the best way to get through this? Knowing his so-called violent behavior?
I have no idea. I've tried to leave before, but he won't let me.
Did you guys have any life insurance policy? Did he have any will? Did you guys have any life savings whatsoever? Any savings? Any bank accounts?
We're having a problem with money because I couldn't get a job.
Couldn't get a job. Now,
Wouldn't let me get a
but can you tell me though? Did he have a 401k? Did he have any money in any bank account? You do not know. So you do not know even your own husband's financial situation, but yet you're claiming that your entire financial situation was poor.
So I'm saying you guys financial problems doesn't let me get a job. I don't know what it is.
He won't let you get a job. So, and we quoted you as saying you weren't thinking straight at the time of the crime. That's what we quoted you, and you can't deny that because that's what you said on the stand. So, even if you didn't have bipolar disorder, even though Dr. Hippler diagnosed you with that, Mr. Johnson there said that you could even have symptoms of bipolar disorder, and you were suffering from even increased depression because the medicines weren't working, or the medicines you weren't having. So even if you didn't have the official diagnosis of this mental illness, you still suffered from those symptoms. So could she not have still made a rash decision if she was suffering from symptoms of bipolar disorder? Whether or not you had it or not is a different question. If you were showing symptoms, however, as Mr. Johnson, the respected Mr. Johnson, said, then you could very well have committed the crime.
We'll continue the testimony on Monday.
If I was here,